There's a very specific kind of exhaustion that lives inside people who always feel not enough. It's not the tiredness that comes from work or lack of sleep or even stress. It's the exhaustion of carrying yourself, carrying every version of you that you've judged, measured, compared, and found lacking. You know this feeling. You've lived with it for so long that it doesn't even feel like a feeling anymore. It feels like you. You wake up already negotiating with yourself, already trying to prove something, already trying to outrun the fear that someone will see the flaws you spend all day scanning for. And the painful part is this: you don't actually want to be perfect. You just want to feel safe. You want to feel like who you are, before the achievements, before the competence, before the performance might actually be allowed to exist. But there's a paradox here, a cruel one. The same internal system that protected you as a child is destroying you now as an adult. Because at some point in early life, you learned a rule. If I'm not exceptional, I'm nothing. Or maybe, if I'm not useful, I'm invisible. Or, if I show weakness, love disappears. And so you became vigilant. You became careful. You became the kind of person who is always editing yourself, always adjusting, always anticipating the next expectation. The paradox is this: the very strategy that once helped you survive, constant self-evaluation, is now the strategy that keeps you from living. You became a master of being almost enough, but never actually enough for yourself. And it's not your fault. You didn't choose this. This was shaped into you. So if you feel this way, if you feel like you're constantly running but never arriving, this video is for you. Because people who always feel not enough aren't broken. They're wounded. And their wounds have a psychology, one that makes sense, one that can be named, and one that can be healed. Let's define this archetype properly. People who always feel not enough are not simply insecure. They are not just perfectionists or overthinkers or people pleasers. Their entire internal world is structured around an early psychological adaptation that shaped the nervous system itself. 3 major concepts define this. 1. Conditional worth imprinting. This happens when a child receives love, attention, or safety only when they perform, behave, or suppress their needs. In psychology, this is tied closely to conditional positive regard, a concept developed by Carl Rogers. A child learns, I am valued for what I do, not who I am. So as adults, they live trapped in an endless performance loop. 2. Hypervigilance of self. We often think of hypervigilance as watching the environment for danger, but here, the vigilance turns inward. The person constantly scans themselves for flaws, weaknesses, imperfections, anything that might make them unworthy. It's a neurological adaptation. The default mode network, the brain system that handles self-reflection, becomes overactive and self-critical, like a mirror that only shows distortion. 3. Internalized parentification. This is not the classic you had to act like the parent. It's subtler. You had to manage the emotional atmosphere of the home. You had to predict tension, regulate your behavior, prevent conflict, or achieve to keep peace. So you became an adult who feels responsible for everyone's mood but your own. And you measure your worth through that responsibility. These 3 forces reshape the identity, not metaphorically, literally. Your stress hormones, your self-concept, your conflict responses, your emotional tolerance thresholds, they all develop around the central belief: if I am not constantly proving myself, I will be abandoned, rejected, or forgotten. This is not low self-esteem. This is not a lack of confidence. This is a survival system that operates automatically and relentlessly. There is a grief hidden inside people who feel not enough, a grief they rarely speak about because they don't have the language for it. It's the grief of a self that never got to be born. You learned early on to sacrifice authenticity for acceptance, to silence your needs, to shrink your joy, to make your sadness invisible, to be strong when you were breaking, to be useful when you were exhausted, to be impressive when you were terrified. And the cost of that is enormous, because every time you deny a piece of yourself, you lose a piece of yourself. People who feel not enough often carry what Carl Jung described as the unlived life, the part of you that never got a chance to come out of hiding. This internal war shows up in small moments. You can't enjoy rest because you fear you're wasting time. You can't accept compliments because your mind immediately counters with flaws. You can't celebrate progress because you're already focused on the next milestone. You can't slow down because slowing down feels like disappearing. And underneath all of this is a deeper fear, one that shapes your entire emotional reality. The fear that if you stop performing, you stop deserving. This is the silent suffering. This is the hidden pain. You don't just fear failure. You fear being seen failing. You don't just fear rejection. You fear confirming your worst belief, that they were right to overlook me, that I really was never enough. This is not a small pain. This is existential. This is about identity, belonging, survival. Let's talk about how this archetype shows up in adulthood. Because even if you don't consciously think, "I'm not enough," your behaviors tell the story. Here are the common adult symptoms. 1. You apologize for your existence. You say sorry for things that are not your fault, for taking up space, for speaking, for having needs. This isn't politeness, it's self-erasure. You overwork because rest feels dangerous. Rest triggers guilt. It triggers panic. It makes you feel like you're falling behind in a race you didn't choose to run. You chase achievement but can't feel achievement. You hit one goal and immediately ask, "What's next?" You don't allow accomplishments to land in your body. You overgive in relationships. You become the reliable one, the strong one, the emotionally available one, but you're afraid to receive. You're afraid to need. 5. You avoid conflict at all costs, not because you want peace, but because conflict threatens your sense of worth. A disagreement feels like a referendum on your value. 6. You compare yourself constantly. You have a mental ruler you carry everywhere. Every interaction becomes an evaluation. Every success becomes a competition. Every failure becomes a verdict. All of these are coping strategies, not personality traits. And the unlearning begins with one quiet moment of honesty. You must witness your own pain, not dismiss it, not minimize it, not gaslight yourself into saying it wasn't that bad. Because it was. It shaped you. The adult healing begins when the child inside you is finally allowed to say the words they never could. I needed more. I deserved more. I was always enough, even when no one saw it. So how do you begin healing this? Not by striving, not by achieving, not by collecting more evidence that you matter. Healing begins with inner reparenting, giving yourself the love, protection, and validation you were taught to earn. It begins with shadow work, letting the parts of you that were shamed come into the light, the needy part, the tired part, the imperfect part, the emotional part, the human part. It begins with choosing softness toward yourself, the exact softness you were never allowed to have. Practical steps include speaking to yourself in the tone you needed as a child, allowing rest without justification, ending relationships where you must earn your worth, taking breaks without guilt, saying no even when you fear disappointing someone, celebrating small wins fully, replacing self-comparison with self-compassion. And here's the truth you must remember. Healing is not about becoming a different person. It is about reclaiming the person you were before the fear taught you otherwise. As the philosopher Rumi said, "You wander from room to room, searching for the diamond necklace that is already around your neck." Your worth has never been in question. Not truly. Not at the level that matters. You have always been enough. If this message spoke to you, consider sharing it with someone who might need it. And if you want more videos like this, videos that see you, name you, and help you understand yourself, subscribe, stay connected, and keep choosing healing.